My name is Natalie, and at 32 years old, I never expected to be betrayed by my own parents like this. After working my way up from nothing to become a successful software engineer, I decided, despite our rocky relationship, to buy them a $40,000 car as a thank you gift. 1 month later, I discovered they had sold it to fund my sister Lauren's extravagant graduation party. The worst part, I was never even invited. Just when I thought it couldn't get more hurtful, my mother called me with an audacious request. Before I continue this story, drop a comment letting me know where you are watching from and hit that subscribe button. If your family has ever taken advantage of your generosity, growing up in suburban Michigan, I always knew something was different about how my parents treated me compared to my younger sister Lauren. Our middle-class family wasn't wealthy, but my parents always found ways to make Lauren feel special. While my achievements went largely unnoticed, I still remember my 10th birthday when my parents promised a small party. Only 2 friends were allowed to come over for pizza and cake. Just 2 months later, Lauren turned 8 and received a bounce house, professional face painting, and 20 guests for her celebration. My parents explained they had received an unexpected bonus at work, but the pattern continued year after year. School events followed the same trend when I made the honor roll consistently throughout middle school. My parents would nod and say, "That is what we expect from you." When Lauren managed to get a B- in English, they took the entire family out for a fancy dinner celebration and bought her a new outfit. The disparity continued straight through high school. When I was accepted to the National Honor Society, my mother had to work late, and my father forgot to charge his phone, missing the induction ceremony entirely. I sat alone, watching other parents beam with pride at their children. 2 years later, they took a day off work to attend Lauren's volleyball game where she mostly sat on the bench. Despite the clear favoritism, I pushed myself academically. My drive was partly fueled by a desire to finally win their approval, but also by my determination to create a life independent from them. I graduated valedictorian and earned a full scholarship to the University of Michigan for computer science. Even this accomplishment was downplayed at family gatherings, with relatives encouraged to focus on Lauren's struggle to choose between community colleges throughout college. I worked 20 hours weekly at the campus bookstore and as a teaching assistant while maintaining my scholarship GPA requirements. My parents called occasionally, but conversations inevitably turned to Lauren's latest drama or financial needs. I sent what little I could spare from my tight budget when they mentioned struggling to pay for Lauren's summer program or new laptop. After graduation, I landed an entry-level position at a tech startup in San Francisco. Moving to California provided both physical and emotional distance, allowing me to focus on building my career without the constant reminder of my second-class status in the family. Over the next 8 years, I advanced steadily, earning promotions through dedication and exceptional performance reviews. By 30, I had reached senior engineer status at one of Silicon Valley's most prestigious companies. My salary had quadrupled since my first job, allowing me to live comfortably in an expensive city while building substantial savings. Despite my success, I still craved my parents' approval on some level. I continued sending birthday gifts, holiday checks, and occasional contributions when they mentioned financial difficulties. Each time I visited Michigan, I arrived with expensive gifts and treated everyone to nice restaurants. These gestures were met with polite thanks, but conversations quickly refocused on Lauren's latest challenges. She had changed majors 3 times, extending her undergraduate studies to 6 years. All fully funded by my parents, who depleted their retirement savings to support her. The contrast between our lives grew increasingly stark. While I had built financial security through hard work and determination, Lauren remained dependent on our parents well into her 20s. They justified this imbalance by saying Lauren was finding herself and needed extra support, while I was naturally gifted and always fine on my own. Despite years of therapy helping me recognize this dynamic, I maintained contact with my family. I kept conversations superficial and visits brief, protecting myself from the familiar pain of seeking approval that never came. Still, some childish part of me hoped that one day something might change, that someday my parents would see me, truly see me, and offer the love and recognition I had worked so hard to earn. The idea to buy my parents a new car came after a rare Sunday phone call. Last spring, my father mentioned in passing that their Toyota was having transmission problems and repairs would cost nearly $4,000. My mother chimed in from the background, lamenting how they just couldn't catch a break financially. We will probably need to take out a small loan, my father sighed. The timing is terrible with Lauren's graduation coming up next month. The mention of Lauren's impending graduation after 6 years of college triggered my usual complex emotions, but instead of focusing on the familiar sting of comparison, I found myself considering my recent financial situation. I had just received a substantial performance bonus and had been living well below my means for years. My investment portfolio was healthy, and I had been vaguely planning to upgrade my own modest vehicle eventually. In that moment, I made an impulsive decision that I hoped might finally bridge the emotional gap between us. What if I helped with the car situation? I offered I could contribute toward the repairs. Oh, honey, we couldn't ask you to do that, my mother replied, though her tone suggested otherwise. Actually, I continued, my idea crystallizing. I was thinking of something more. What if I helped you get a new car instead? The repair costs on an older vehicle keep adding up, and I'm in a position where I can help. The silence on the other end lasted several seconds before my father responded with uncharacteristic emotion in his voice. That's too much, Natalie. We couldn't accept something that generous. But their token resistance dissolved quickly when I insisted. Over the next week, I researched reliable SUVs that would suit their needs and lifestyle. I settled on a Ford Explorer with excellent safety ratings and comfort features appropriate for my aging parents. The $40,000 price tag represented a significant amount of money, but felt worth it if it could help repair our relationship. I coordinated with a dealership near their home in Michigan, arranging to finalize the purchase. When I flew in the following month, I didn't tell them exactly what I was planning, only that I wanted to help with their car situation and would be visiting soon. When I arrived in Michigan, I suggested we visit the dealership just to look at options. Their confusion turned to disbelief when the salesperson greeted me by name and led us to a gleaming navy blue Explorer parked in the delivery area. We have the paperwork ready for your signature, Miss William, the salesperson said with a smile. Just as you arranged. My mother's hands flew to her mouth. Natalie? What is this? It's yours, I said, feeling a surge of both pride and vulnerability. I wanted to do something special for you both. No more repair bills. No more worries about the old car breaking down. What followed was a scene I had imagined countless times throughout my childhood and adult years. My mother actually cried and embraced me tightly. My father, not usually demonstrative, hugged me and appeared to blink back tears. "I don't know what to say," he mumbled. "This is too generous. You've done so much for our family," I replied, choosing my words carefully. I'm fortunate enough to be in a position to give back now. We spent the afternoon completing paperwork and learning about the vehicle's features. My parents seemed genuinely thrilled, taking photos, sitting in their new car, and immediately calling relatives to share the news. Lauren joined us for dinner that evening, having been summoned by my mother to see the new vehicle. Her reaction was noticeably less enthusiastic. "Wow, must be nice to have money to throw around," she commented, examining the car with a critical eye. I could have used help with my student loans instead. My mother quickly shushed her. "Don't be ungrateful. Your sister did something wonderful for us." "Just saying," Lauren shrugged. $40,000 could have covered my entire student debt. I bit my tongue, choosing not to point out that my parents had paid for her entire education while I had worked through college on scholarship. This moment wasn't about old grievances. It was about creating a new dynamic. For the next 2 weeks after I returned to California, MY parents called regularly with updates about the car. They sent photos of them taking it to show friends, using it for grocery shopping, and even on a day trip to a nearby state park. My mother left voicemails expressing how much easier the higher seating position was on her arthritic knees. My father texted about the excellent gas mileage compared to their old vehicle. For the first time in years, I felt genuinely connected to my parents. They were calling me, initiating contact, expressing gratitude. Perhaps the car represented more than transportation. Maybe it symbolized a turning point in our relationship. Then came a comment that should have been my first warning. During our third post-gift phone call, my mother mentioned casually, Lauren felt a little left out with all this car excitement. We were thinking we should do something special for her since you're obviously doing so well financially now. I paused, unsure how to respond. The car was a gift for you and Dad because you needed reliable transportation. It wasn't meant to create an obligation for more gifts. Of course, my mother backed. I just meant that it would be nice if there was something equally valuable for Lauren someday. Family equity is important, don't you think? Another concerning moment came when my father referred to our new family car during a video call, despite the vehicle being specifically registered in my parents' names. These comments niggled at me, but I dismissed them as old habits and insecurities. As I flew back to San Francisco after my visit, I felt cautiously optimistic. Perhaps this generous gift had finally shifted something fundamental in our family dynamic. Perhaps now at 32, I would finally feel like an equal member of the family rather than an outsider looking in. How terribly wrong I was over the next few weeks. I noticed a gradual decline in communication from my parents. The enthusiastic calls about the new car dwindled, then stopped entirely. My texts asking how they were enjoying the Explorer went unanswered or received brief, vague responses. At first, I chalked it up to the novelty wearing off. The excitement of a new vehicle naturally diminishes as it becomes part of everyday life. Still, the sudden communication drop felt strange after the apparent breakthrough in our relationship. One evening while scrolling through Facebook, I noticed something odd in the background of a photo my mother had posted of their front yard garden. Parked in the driveway was their old Toyota, not the new Explorer I had purchased. I zoomed in, confirming it was indeed their previous vehicle, which I assumed would have been sold or traded in. I sent a casual text. Saw Mom's garden photo. Are you still driving the old car sometimes? 2. My father replied hours later. Works fine after minor repair. No mention of the Explorer. No. Explanation for why they were using their old car instead of the new one I had gifted them. Something didn't add up, but I hesitated to press further without more information. A few days later, while checking email, I noticed a message in my promotions folder from my old high school alumni network. The subject line read, "Congratulations to alumni, family members, 2023 graduates. Curious." I opened it to find a digital announcement featuring recent graduates with connections to alumni. They're smiling in her cap and gown was Lauren. The blurb mentioned her graduation ceremony would be held the following weekend at the Grand Hotel, one of the most expensive venues in our hometown. My stomach tightened. Not only had I not received an invitation to this apparently elaborate event, but no one had even mentioned it was happening. I immediately called my father, who answered with obvious reluctance in his voice. "Dad, I just saw an announcement about Lauren's graduation ceremony this weekend. Was my invitation lost in the mail?" I tried to keep my tone light, giving them the benefit of the doubt. A long pause followed before he cleared his throat. "Well, Natalie, we thought since you're so busy in California and it's such a long trip for just a ceremony, you wouldn't want to come anyway. You could have asked me," I replied, hurt evident in my voice. "Lauren is my sister. Of course, I would want to be there for her graduation." Another uncomfortable silence stretched between us before I asked the question that had been bothering me. "By the way, I noticed in Mom's recent photo you're using the old car. Is something wrong with the Explorer?" What came next sent a cold wave of shock through my body. "We sold it about 3 weeks ago," he stated matter-of-factly, as though discussing the weather. "Got a good price for it, too. Almost what you paid." I struggled to find words. "You sold the car I gave you. Why would you do that without even telling me?" "Well, Lauren's graduation expenses came up and we needed the funds. The venue deposit alone was $15,000. Then there's the catering, photographer, custom invitations, and the graduation gift we're surprising her with." My mind reeled as I calculated the timeline. They had sold the car barely a month after receiving it, right around the time their enthusiastic calls had stopped. "The old car is running fine after we fixed it," he continued, seemingly oblivious to my distress. "Just needed a sensor replacement. Not the full transmission work, we thought. And Lauren deserves something special for finally completing her degree. So you sold a $40,000 gift I gave you to throw a party I wasn't even invited to." I struggled to keep my voice steady. "Now, don't be dramatic, Natalie." My mother's voice suddenly came on the line, apparently having been listening to the conversation. "You've always been the independent one. Lauren needs more support and celebration for her achievements since they don't come as easily to her as they did to you. Besides, you're doing fine without attending the ceremony. You have your fancy California life and career. This is Lauren's moment to shine for once. The casual cruelty of their justification left me speechless. Not only had they sold my heartfelt gift without consultation, but they had used the proceeds to fund an event they deliberately excluded me from. The car was registered to you. I finally managed. Legally, it was yours to sell, but I gave it to you as a gift, not as graduation party funds for Lauren. Family resources should benefit the whole family, my mother replied firmly. You chose to spend your money on us, and we chose to use it where it was most needed. Lauren hasn't had your advantages. I ended the call shortly after, sitting in stunned silence in my apartment. The betrayal felt physical, like a blow to my chest. All the hope I had felt, all the warming in our relationship I thought the gift had created, evaporated in an instant. Not only had my generosity been discarded, but it had been redirected to explicitly exclude me from a family milestone. After discovering my parents had sold the car, I gifted them to fund Lauren's lavish graduation celebration. I spent the night alternating between tears of hurt and anger. By morning, I had made an impulsive decision. I needed to confront this situation face to face, not over the phone where my parents could easily dismiss my feelings. I booked the next available flight to Michigan, called in sick to work for 2 days, and packed a small overnight bag. The flight gave me time to rehearse what I wanted to say, though my thoughts remained a turbulent mix of betrayal, indignation, and that familiar childhood pain of being the less valued daughter. Landing in Detroit, I rented a car and drove directly to my parents' suburban home. Arriving unannounced in the early evening, both their cars were in the driveway, the old Toyota prominently parked where the Explorer should have been. The physical absence of the gift I had given them renewed my determination to have this difficult conversation. I knocked firmly on the front door, my heart pounding. My mother answered, her initial smile of surprise quickly fading to weariness when she registered my expression. Natalie, what are you doing here? We had no idea you were coming. That seems to be a pattern lately, I replied, stepping inside without waiting for an invitation. Important family events happening without my knowledge. My father emerged from the living room, his face showing confusion that shifted to defensiveness when he saw me. This is unexpected. Is everything okay? No, I stated firmly, placing my bag down. Everything is not okay. We need to talk about the car you sold in Lauren's graduation party that I wasn't invited to. My mother's posture stiffened. I thought we covered this on the phone. There's nothing more to discuss. You sold a $40,000 gift I gave you without even mentioning it to me. Then used that money for an event I was deliberately excluded from. Yes, there's plenty to discuss. My father gestured toward the living room with a sigh. Let's at least sit down if we're going to have this conversation. As we entered the living room, I noticed Lauren herself lounging on the sofa, scrolling through her phone. She looked up with annoyance at the interruption. Oh, great! The golden child has descended from her California throne. What crisis brings you to the realm of us common folk? Lauren, my mother warned half-heartedly. I addressed my sister directly. Did you know they sold the car I gave them to pay for your graduation party? She shrugged, returning to her phone. So what if they did? It was their car to sell. You can afford it anyway with your tech money. Some of us aren't so privileged. The casual dismissal of my feelings from all three family members ignited something in me. Years of swallowing hurt, of making excuses for their behavior, of trying to earn love through achievement and generosity burst forth. That car represented months of my hard work, I said, my voice rising despite my efforts to stay calm. It wasn't just about the money. It was about showing appreciation for my parents. I thought it might finally help them see that I'm also part of this family, not just a bank account you can withdraw from whenever Lauren needs something. My mother interrupted. Because you're the child and we're the parents. We don't need to justify our decisions to you. If anything, you should be happy. Your gift helped make your sister's graduation special. Lauren looked up from her phone with a smirk.
Yeah.
And it was special. Too bad you missed it. The chocolate fountain alone costs $3,000. The casual cruelty of her remark, coupled with my parents' unwavering defense of their actions, caused something to crack inside me. Tears welled in my eyes despite my determination to remain composed. Do you have any idea how much that car meant to me to give to you? I wanted to help, to show love, to be a good daughter. And this is how you repay that, by selling it behind my back and excluding me from family celebrations. My mother's expression hardened. You're making a scene over nothing. It was just a car. It wasn't just a car. My voice broke. It was my attempt to finally be enough for you, to finally do something that would make you proud of me, that would make you treat me like you treat Lauren. The room fell silent at my outburst. For a brief moment, I thought I saw a flicker of understanding in my father's eyes, quickly extinguished as he looked away. My aunt and uncle, who apparently had been in the kitchen and overheard the commotion, entered the room. Rather than offering perspective, they immediately joined the united front against me. Natalie, your parents have supported both you girls equally. My aunt stated firmly, they're allowed to make their own decisions about their property. You've always been so independent, my uncle added. Lauren needs more support. That's just how family works sometimes. Surrounded by people who had consistently devalued my feelings throughout my life, I felt the walls closing in. The gaslighting was so complete that for a moment I questioned whether I was indeed overreacting. Was I being selfish for feeling betrayed? Was I wrong to expect consideration for my $40,000 gift? We never promised to keep it forever, my mother repeated, doubling down. You're creating drama where there doesn't need to be any. Looking at their faces, something finally broke inside me. Years of seeking approval, of making excuses for their behavior, of hoping things would change, collapsed all at once. Tears streamed down my face as I realized the painful truth I had been avoiding for decades. No gift, no achievement, no sacrifice would ever be enough to make them love me the way they loved Lauren. I need to go, I managed to say through tears. I grabbed my bag and walked toward the door. Their voices calling after me with the same justifications. You're overreacting. It was our car to sell. Family helps family. Why are you being so dramatic? I drove to a nearby hotel in a blur of tears, checked in, and collapsed on the bed. The emotional exhaustion of the confrontation hit me all at once. I called my best friend in California, who listened patiently as I sobbed through the whole sordid story. I feel so stupid, I told her. I keep trying to buy their love, and they keep showing me it's not for sale. You're not stupid, she replied. Generally, you're just a daughter who wanted her parents' approval. But Natalie, at some point, You have to accept that this isn't about you being enough. It's about their issues. I spent the night processing painful truths I had avoided for years. By morning, I had made the decision to return to California without further confrontation. The realization that no explanation would ever satisfy them, that no amount of evidence would make them acknowledge the hurt they had caused, was both devastating and strangely liberating. For the next several weeks after returning home, I maintained minimal contact with my family. My parents texted occasionally as if nothing had happened, never acknowledging the confrontation or my feelings. I responded politely but briefly, protecting myself from further pain while processing my emotions through therapy sessions and conversations with friends who actually valued me. After the confrontation in Michigan, I returned to California and threw myself into work. The familiar rhythm of coding problems and team meetings provided a welcome distraction from family turmoil. I increased my therapy sessions from monthly to weekly, finally addressing the deep-seated pain of parental favoritism I had normalized for decades. What you experienced wasn't just disappointment. My therapist explained during one particularly insightful session, it was a profound betrayal of the parent-child bond. They consistently prioritized your sister's wants over your basic emotional needs. Those words helped me understand why the car incident had affected me so deeply. It wasn't just about the money or even the object itself. The pattern of devaluing my contributions while elevating Lauren's needs had been playing out my entire life. The car was simply the most expensive and explicit example. For nearly a month, I maintained only surface-level contact with my family. Brief texts about weather or general wellness replaced our previous conversations. I sent no money, offered no assistance, made no attempts to bridge the widening gap. Each time my phone displayed my mother's name, my stomach tightened with anxiety, but I was determined to establish healthier boundaries. August approached, bringing with it my mother's 60th birthday. In previous years, I would have already booked flights, ordered custom gifts, and planned elaborate celebrations to demonstrate my devotion and hopefully earn some morsel of approval. This year, I considered sending only a card. 2 weeks before her birthday, my mother called unexpectedly. Seeing her name on my phone screen, I hesitated before answering, steeling myself for whatever guilt trip might await. "Natalie, sweetheart, how are you?" Her voice carried a warmth I hadn't heard since the day I presented them with the car keys. "I'm fine, Mom. Just busy with work." I kept my tone neutral, wondering what prompted this sudden affection. "Well, I was just calling to catch up. We haven't had a good talk in weeks," she continued as if our last interaction hadn't involved me leaving their house in tears. "Lauren just got a job interview at the community college. Can you believe it? Entry-level administration, but it could lead to something better." "That's nice," I replied noncommittally. "And your father's garden is doing so well this year. The tomatoes are enormous. Remember how you used to help him plant seeds when you were little?" The strategic nostalgia was not subtle. I recognized this technique from childhood when seeming warmth would precede requests for favors or money. Still, I allowed the conversation to flow, curious where it was heading. After 15 minutes of superficial chatting and updates about relatives I barely knew, she finally reached her point. "So, my birthday is coming up in 2 weeks," she mentioned casually. "Yes, I remember. I was planning to send a card." A brief pause followed. "Well, I was actually hoping for something a bit more personal. This year. Turning 60 is a big milestone. Did you have something in mind? I asked, already sensing the direction this was heading. Actually, yes. Her voice took on an entitled tone I recognized all too well. I would really love a new car for my birthday. The audacity of the request after what had transpired left me momentarily speechless. Was she seriously asking me to buy her another vehicle after selling the first one I had given them? She continued into my silence. Nothing too fancy, of course. I was thinking maybe a Lexus SUV? The silver one we saw in a commercial last month? Your father thinks it would be perfect for me. I found my voice at last. Mom, you sold the car. I gave you just a few months ago. That was different, she dismissed. That was a family decision to support Lauren's graduation. This would be just for me. A special birthday gift. The casual rewriting of recent history was breathtaking. No acknowledgement of hurt feelings, no apology for exclusion from the graduation, just an expectation that I would once again open my wallet. Besides, she continued, I think after all the drama you caused last month, this would be a nice way for you to make things right with the family. Drama I caused, I repeated incredulously. Yes, showing up unannounced, upsetting everyone with accusations. Lauren was very hurt by your attitude toward her special day. In that moment, I realized that no amount of explanation would ever penetrate the family narrative where I was eternally cast as the villain for having feelings, and Lauren, eternally the victim deserving endless support. The mental gymnastics required to justify selling my gift without telling me, excluding me from a family celebration, then asking for an even more expensive gift as though I owed it to them, was truly remarkable. I'll have to think about it, I replied, not yet ready to directly refuse, but unwilling to agree to such an outrageous request. Well, don't think too long. My birthday is only 2 weeks away, and the dealership might need time to get the exact model I want. I prefer the premium package with the leather interior. Oh, and I checked. They start at around $55,000. The conversation ended soon after with my mother extracting a vague promise that I would see what I could do about her birthday request. I sat in stunned silence after hanging up, a mixture of anger and disbelief washing over me. I immediately called 2 close friends to reality check the situation, worried that perhaps I was overreacting. Both were appalled at my mother's request. That's not normal, Nat, my college roommate assured me. That's not how healthy families operate. You don't owe them another car or anything else. My other friend was more blunt. They're treating you like an ATM, not a daughter. Time to close that account. Over the next several days, I considered my options. Part of me wanted to simply ignore the request and send a modest gift card instead. Another part felt this was an opportunity to finally address the dysfunctional patterns in our relationship. After careful reflection and another session with my therapist, I formulated a plan. I would return to Michigan for my mother's birthday, but not with the gift she expected. Instead, I would bring something that represented the new boundaries I needed to establish for my own well-being. You're not being vindictive. My therapist assured me when I shared my plan, you're responding to manipulation with clear boundaries. That's healthy, even if it feels uncomfortable. I booked a flight to Michigan, took 2 days off work, and prepared myself emotionally for what would likely be a difficult encounter. This time, however, I wasn't arriving with naive hopes of finally winning approval. I was coming with clear eyes about the family dynamics and a determination to stand up for myself. I arrived in Michigan the evening before my mother's 60th birthday, checking into a hotel rather than staying at my parents' home. The emotional distance felt necessary for what I planned to do. That night, I reviewed the words I had carefully prepared, wanting to be clear and composed when the moment came. My mother's birthday celebration was scheduled at my aunt's home, a gathering of extended family and close friends. I knew from past experience that these events were often stages for family performance opportunities to showcase achievements and reinforce established roles. This time, I would be rewriting my part in the family script. I arrived at the party carrying a small, beautifully wrapped box approximately the size that might hold car keys or jewelry. My entrance caused immediate interest, with relatives glancing meaningfully at the gift in my hands. My mother's eyes lit up when she saw me, though I noticed her gaze lingered longer on the package than on my face. "Natalie, you made it." She embraced me with unusual enthusiasm. "I wasn't sure you'd come all this way. I wouldn't miss your 60th birthday, Mom," I replied sincerely. Despite everything, part of me still loved the woman who had raised me. Complicated as that love might be, throughout the early part of the celebration, my mother made several not-so-subtle references to my gift. "I can't wait to see what Natalie got me. She always knows exactly what I need," she told my aunt with a meaningful glance in my direction. I noticed several relatives watching our interaction with curious expressions. Had my mother already told them she was expecting a new car? The thought made me even more certain about my decision. When the time came for gift opening, my mother saved my small box for last, building anticipation among the gathered family members. She held it up with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. And finally, from my successful daughter in California, she announced to the room of about 20 relatives. The emphasis on successful carried an implication I recognized from years of similar comments, both acknowledging my achievements while simultaneously using them to create distance. She unwrapped the small box carefully, maintaining her smile, even as confusion flickered across her face upon seeing the plain white cardboard container. Opening it, her expression froze when, instead of car keys, she found a small toy car meticulously chosen to match the Lexus model she had requested. Alongside it was a small booklet I had created titled "How to Respect Boundaries" and "Appreciate Gifts," a guide for parents, and completing the contents was a $50 gift card for defensive driving lessons. The room fell silent as my mother stared at the contents, her smile now completely gone. My father stepped closer, peering into the box with growing discomfort. "I don't understand," my mother finally said, looking up at me with genuine confusion. "Where are the car keys?" The moment had arrived. I took a deep breath and spoke clearly enough for everyone to hear. "Mom, Dad, I want to explain my gift. 3 months ago, I gave you both a $40,000 car as a gesture of love and appreciation. Within weeks, you sold it without telling me and used the money to throw an elaborate graduation party for Lauren that I wasn't even invited to." Murmurs spread through the room as relatives exchanged glances. From their reactions, I realized many hadn't known the full story. "When you called asking for another even more expensive car for your birthday, I realized we needed to have an honest conversation about respect and boundaries. The toy car represents what I'm able to give right now, not financially, but emotionally. The booklet contains my thoughts on building a healthier relationship moving forward. My mother's face had turned crimson. This is completely inappropriate, Natalie. How dare you embarrass me at my own birthday party? My father attempted damage control. Perhaps we should discuss this privately. Why? I asked calmly. When you sold the car I gave you, did you consider discussing it with me privately first? When you planned Lauren's graduation and decided not to include me, was privacy a concern? Then Lauren, who had been watching from the corner with growing alarm, stepped forward. You're just jealous because for once something was about me instead of you. You've always been Mom and Dad's favorite. Several relatives actually laughed at this assertion, having witnessed our family dynamic for years. Lauren, this isn't about jealousy, I replied evenly. This is about respect. I would never sell a valuable gift you gave me to fund a party you weren't invited to, then ask for something even more expensive as if nothing had happened. My Aunt Clara, my mother's sister, unexpectedly spoke up. Is this true? Margaret, you sold Natalie's car gift and didn't invite her to Lauren's graduation. My mother faltered. It wasn't like that. We needed the money for Lauren's special day. And Natalie is always so busy in California. She wouldn't have wanted to come anyway. Shouldn't that have been my choice? I asked. The room had grown uncomfortably quiet. Years of carefully constructed family narrative were unraveling as relatives witnessed the dynamic directly instead of hearing my parents' filtered version. Going forward, I continued maintaining my composure. I want a relationship with all of you based on mutual respect. I'm happy to give gifts that I can afford, but I won't be treated like a family bank account. I won't fund events I'm excluded from, and I won't pretend hurtful actions didn't happen just to keep the peace. My mother was nearly in tears, though whether from genuine remorse or embarrassment at being exposed was unclear. I can't believe you would ruin my birthday like this. I'm not trying to ruin anything, I responded. I'm trying to build something better than what we've had, but that requires honesty from all of us. My father, looking more thoughtful than I had seen him in years, placed his hand on my mother's shoulder. Perhaps we should listen to what Natalie is saying? The party atmosphere had irrevocably shifted. Some relatives looked uncomfortable, others thoughtful, and a few nodded in apparent understanding of dynamics they had observed but never named. I stayed another 30 minutes, accepting a piece of birthday cake and making polite conversation with relatives who approached me with newfound respect in their eyes. When I felt the point had been made, I said my goodbyes, embracing my mother despite her stiff response. I do love you, Mom, I said quietly. That's why I'm asking for better than what we've had. As I drove back to my hotel, my phone began chiming with text messages. To my surprise, several came from cousins and even an uncle expressing support for what I had done. About time someone said something, wrote my cousin Jeff, we've all seen how they treat you for years. Proud of you for standing up for yourself. Texted my Uncle Robert, not easy to do in this family. These unexpected allies confirmed what I had suspected but never fully acknowledged. The family dynamics weren't just visible to me. but had been apparent to others who had remained silent out of deference to my parents. As my plane lifted off the next morning, I felt a weight lifting with it. For the first time in my adult life, I had confronted the painful patterns in my family, not with desperate attempts to earn approval, but with clear boundaries and honest communication. Whatever came next, I had spoken my truth. Returning to California after the confrontation at my mother's birthday party, I experienced a jumble of emotions, relief mixed with guilt, empowerment with doubt. Had I done the right thing by publicly addressing years of inequity, or had I simply caused unnecessary pain? These questions plagued me during sleepless nights and distracted workdays. My therapist provided an anchoring perspective during our next session. Family systems resist change, she explained. When you alter your role in the dynamic, everyone feels that discomfort doesn't mean you were wrong to set boundaries. The initial weeks following the confrontation brought silence from my parents. No calls, no texts, not even the passive-aggressive social media comments I had half expected. Lauren predictably sent several lengthy messages describing how I had ruined everything and always needed to make things about myself. I read them once, then muted the conversation without responding. This silence created space for genuine healing to begin, without the constant drain of trying to earn approval or manage family drama. I redirected that energy toward building a life that truly nourished me. I joined a hiking group, took a ceramics class I had been curious about 4 years, and deepened friendships that had sometimes taken a back seat to family obligations. My professional life flourished as well, with fewer emotional distractions. I contributed more meaningfully to projects and earned a promotion.